Alright, what's happening everybody? It's your boy Akeen, and welcome to the Sports News Insider College Football Blog. Here to recap Week 5 of the college football season, I'm going to start with Thursday's night's matchup between South Florida and the Pitt Panthers. Pitt just trounced them 44-17, and running back Ray Graham trampled the Bulls for 226 yards and a couple of scores. Great win for the Pitt Panthers, giving South Florida their first loss of the season. Now Texas A&M, they hosted Arkansas Razorbacks, and it was a great matchup. But Texas A&M once again blew another great lead at the end of the half. They had an 18-point lead at halftime, but ended up blowing it away. Arkansas ended up coming back, led by quarterback Tyler Wilson, who had 510 yards passing, 281 of those yards going to his top target, Jarius Wright. And it was a great matchup, but I'm surprised for the Aggies because I thought they should have won this game and learned from their mistakes last week. Looks like their season is pretty much over, meaning going to a national championship. They still have a shot making to the Big 12 championship, but their national championship hopes is done. Now Georgia, they had a good game against Mississippi State due to their defense, not allowing quarterback Chris Relf to have any touchdown drives in that game, pulling the 23-10 victory. Stanford and Michigan, they ended up blowing away their opponents. Minnesota pretty much just handed Michigan the jug. Michigan crushed them 58-0, giving them a big giant goose egg. And Stanford crushed UCLA 45-19. Now Boise State, they ended up avenging last season's loss to Nevada, beating Nevada 30-10. Now one thing I do need to point out is for the Heisman watch, Kellen Moore, his stats pretty much dwindled this season. 142 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions in this game. I think his Heisman hopes is pretty much over. But Boise State is still undefeated, and they can still have a clear shot to make it to that national championship. And that's all that matters. This team is still undefeated. Unfortunately, it's not the same for South Florida, who had an upset against the Auburn Tigers, 16-13. Now, one thing I need to point out for this team is Steven Garcia, their quarterback. He has not been playing good thus far this season. He's actually throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. 9 interceptions to 4 touchdowns to be exact. And he's having a bad year. He needs to step up in order for South Carolina to get a shot to play for that SEC championship. We will see. And I think South Florida really needs help at the quarterback position. Now, there was a couple of good games that I mentioned earlier this week. Baylor ended up playing against the Kansas State Wildcats, in which Kansas State pulled an upset 36-35. Robert Griffin III had another great game, over 300 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, but threw a crucial interception at the final drive of the game, which gave Baylor that loss. Now TCU, they ended up hosting the SMU Mustangs. SMU ended up pulling off a fantastic overtime thriller victory, 40-33. It was a great game. Now I'm going to start heading back to the Big Ten. Michigan State played against the Ohio State Buckeyes, and Michigan State just crushed Ohio State defensively, only allowing 178 yards of total offense. Ohio State has a lot of good talent in that freshman talent coming into this year. A couple of 4-star and 5-star athletes, but they are going through a learning curve this year. They're doing bad thus far this season. Braxton Miller is getting more experience at quarterback, but he has some tough tasks later on in the season, especially against Nebraska, at Nebraska and Wisconsin. But the Buckeyes ended up losing 10-7 due to the defense of the Spartans. It was a good victory for Michigan. Now another great matchup and a surprising team who is rising is the Clemson Tigers, beating Virginia Tech 23-3 due to another great defensive show, especially from defensive end Andre Branch, who had 11 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. It was a good victory for the Tigers, and I think they have a clear shot to win that ACC championship this season. They might even make top 10 in the rankings, but we will see. Now, Texas, my Texas Longhorns ended up getting their revenge against the Iowa State Cyclones, winning 34-17. And they're showing the nation that they are not the same team as last season. Great defensive effort, and they have a big game this week against the Oklahoma Sooners for the Red River rivalry, and I'll give you my prediction on Wednesday. And now Wisconsin, my game of the week, the Wisconsin Badgers ended up killing the Nebraska Cornhuskers due to their defense. Their defense pretty much exposed Taylor Martinez's weakness in his passing game. He ended up committing 3 interceptions. And my man, Russell Wilson, I have been mentioning you week after week. He should definitely be that front runner for the Heisman. He had 55 yards passing, a couple of scores, and a rushing touchdown at that. And I think Wisconsin is the favorite to win the Big Ten championship. But anything can happen because last season, do not forget, Nebraska beat Washington in the regular season. But Washington ended up coming back in the Holiday Bowl. And this can be the same for the Nebraska Huskers. This season is not over for the Big Red team. Now, my game, one of my upset pick of the week, I have Florida over Alabama, and that was a big mistake. Yes, I know a lot of people are surprised that I picked Florida, but I thought with Florida's speed, I think they had a shot to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. But Alabama defense, they played relentlessly and aggressive, killing Florida. They only allowed 15 yards rushing. In the SEC conference, you have to be able to run the football. And I thought Florida had a chance with 2 good running backs, Jeff Demps and Chris Rainey. Chris Rainey had 11 rushes for just 4 yards. The Alabama Crimson Tide, I'm sorry for doubting you guys. I apologize, and I apologize to you fans. I won't doubt you guys again. The Alabama team is sick. Trent Richardson had a career high 181 yards rushing on 29 carries. He had a great game, and he's actually coming back up to that Heisman Trophy race. And this is a great season. I still got some big games later on in the season for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, we're going to head to week 6 of the season, the Red River rivalry, a couple of key matchups, and I'll give you my predictions and my top matchups for this week. Thank you for watching today's vlog from Sports News Insider. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.